My friends ridiculed me for not ordering food. Until they saw the bill. They mocked me all night for being cheap, then tried forcing me to split a $600 check for food. I never touched, and I walked out smiling. My name is Emma. I'm 24 years old, and I work as an administrative assistant at a digital marketing company. I live alone in a small apartment, and to be honest, my budget is always tight. But I had a group of friends from work, Sarah, Jessica, and Amanda, who always included me in their outings, and I really valued that friendship. The problem is they had a very specific habit that bothered me deeply, but I never had the courage to confront. Whenever we went out together, the three of them would order the most expensive drinks at the bar, the most elaborate appetizers, the most sophisticated dishes, and then when it came time to pay, there was always that story of, let's split everything equally among us. For months, I swallowed hard and paid. I paid for Sarah's $15 martinis while I drank water. I paid for Jessica's $18 on gourmet appetizers while I ate free peanuts from the counter. I paid for Amanda's $45 main courses while I just watched and made up excuses about being on a diet. They knew about my financial situation. They knew I earned less than a fifth of what they earned. They knew I lived alone and had bills to pay. But still, every Friday it was the same dynamic. They spent like there was no tomorrow, and I paid the bill as if it were my obligation to maintain group harmony. But last Friday at the Olive and Anchor, something inside me broke. It was a happy hour after work, as always. We got there around 6 o'clock in the evening. The bar was packed. Ambient music, that vibe of the weekend beginning. Sarah was radiant because she had closed a big client. Jessica had just returned from a trip to Miami. Amanda was celebrating a promotion. They sat down and immediately started browsing the menu like they knew every item by heart. "The grilled salmon with truffle risotto is divine here," Amanda murmured. "And that midnight in Paris cocktail is a unique experience," Sarah added. I opened my menu and my stomach contracted. The main dishes cost between $40 and $60. The specialty cocktails between $15 and $25. A complete meal there would easily pass $80 with tip. "Girls," I said, trying to sound casual, "I think today I'll just drink something. I'm not very hungry." That's when the laughter started. "Wow, Emma, you always say that," said Jessica, giggling. "When was the last time you ate something when we went out?" Sarah joined the teasing. "It's true. You're the most disciplined person I know. Always resisting temptations." Amanda: "That must be why you're always in shape. I'm so envious of your willpower." They laughed as if it were the funniest thing in the world, as if my discipline were a choice, not a financial necessity, as if I resisted food out of willpower, not because I couldn't afford to pay. The waiter approached to take orders. Sarah was first. "I'll have the sea base with wasabi puree and the Sunset Boulevard cocktail, $52 just for her." Jessica ordered the lamb with herb crust and a glass of imported Portuguese wine. Another $48. Amanda chose the lobster with champagne sauce and an artisan Negroni. Another $55. When it was my turn, they all looked at me expectantly, still with that little smile of someone who was having fun with my eccentricity. "Just sparkling water," I said, closing the menu. The silence was instant and embarrassing. The waiter seemed confused. "Are you sure? Not even an appetizer. Maybe some nachos." "I'm sure. Thank you." That's when the real joke started. "Guys, Emma is taking this diet very seriously," said Sarah, feigning concern. "Could she be overdoing it?" "Yeah, honey," Jessica agreed. "You can eat something small. It won't hurt." Amanda was more direct. "Or could it be a money issue? Because if it is, we can—" "No," I interrupted too quickly, feeling my cheeks burn. "It's not that. I'm just not hungry." They exchanged looks that I couldn't interpret at the time. Now I know they were looks from people who were planning something throughout the entire meal. They made sure to highlight how delicious the food was. "Emma, are you sure you don't want to try? This sea base is divine. Wow, this lamb is perfectly cooked. You're missing out. This champagne sauce is a unique experience." Each comment was a disguised jab. Each compliment about the food was a way to remind me of what I was missing by my own choice. They were having fun with my situation, and I was finally starting to realize it. When they finished eating, Sarah ordered dessert. "The Belgian chocolate cake with vanilla ice cream is unmissable," she said, already waving to the waiter. Jessica and Amanda immediately agreed. Another $15 each, and I drank my sparkling water and forced smiles while they savored their expensive desserts. I calculated mentally. Each of them had already spent more than $70. I had spent $3. That's when the bill arrived. Sarah grabbed the check, looked quickly, and announced naturally, $218. Should we split it 4 ways? That's $54.50 each. My heart stopped. $5,450 for my $3 sparkling water. Wait, I said, my voice coming out louder than intended. I only had water. It doesn't make sense for me to pay $50. The mood at the table changed instantly. The giggles stopped. The smiles disappeared. Jessica was the first to speak. Emma, we always split the bill equally. It's easier that way. But I didn't eat anything, I protested. You knew I was only going to drink water. Sarah sighed as if I was being difficult. It's a matter of practicality. And besides, you were here with us. Enjoyed the atmosphere, the company. Enjoyed the atmosphere, I repeated incredulously. You want me to pay $54.50 for enjoying the atmosphere? Amanda tried to be diplomatic. Look, Emma, we understand your situation, but when you go out in a group, it's normal to split the costs. It's a matter of social etiquette. Social etiquette. As if I were rude for not wanting to pay for food I didn't eat. Girls, I said, trying to stay calm. I can pay my fair share. $3 for the water plus proportional tip. That's about $4. The silence that followed was loaded with tension. Other people at nearby tables started looking in our direction. Sarah put her card back in her purse, visibly irritated. You know what, Emma? This is very embarrassing. We've always split everything and it was never a problem. It was never a problem because I always paid quietly, I replied, feeling a courage I didn't know I had. But this time I'm not paying for your dishes. Jessica shook her head disapprovingly. What an unpleasant situation. Now we'll have to explain to the waiter. Split the bill. It was incredible. They were making me feel guilty for not wanting to pay $5,450 for $3 water. I was the villain for establishing a basic boundary. You can explain to the waiter. I said, getting up and grabbing my purse. I'm not paying for your food. Never again. I left $4 on the table, more than enough to cover my water with a generous tip, and left the restaurant with trembling legs but my head held high. Behind me, I heard Sarah calling the waiter. Sorry, but we're going to need to split the bill. I got home and collapsed on the couch, still processing what had happened. For months, I had been the idiot who paid for others without questioning. For months, they laughed at my discipline, knowing exactly why I didn't eat. They knew I didn't have money and found it funny. They knew I struggled to pay their share and didn't care. Worse, they had fun with it. But as painful as it was to admit, I had allowed it. I had accepted this dynamic for months because I didn't want to lose my friends, because I thought it was better to be exploited than to be alone. That night, lying in bed, I made a decision. Never again. Never again would I pay for others out of fear of confrontation. Never again would I accept being treated like a doormat because of money. I had no idea that this decision would change everything and that things were just beginning. The confrontation begins. On Monday, I arrived at the office prepared for some kind of tension. Sarah, Jessica, and Amanda were in the break room having coffee, talking quietly among themselves. When they saw me, the conversation stopped abruptly. Good morning, girls, I greeted normally. Good morning, they replied in chorus, but the atmosphere was strange cold. Throughout the morning, I noticed sideways glances, whispers that stopped when I approached. At lunchtime, they left together without inviting me, something that had never happened before. It was Carla from HR who told me what was going on. Emma, she said, approaching my desk at the end of the afternoon. Can I talk to you for a minute? We went to the empty meeting room. Carla closed the door and sat across from me with a worried expression. Look, I don't know if I should tell you this, but the girls are spreading that you caused a scene at the restaurant on Friday, that you refused to pay your share of the bill and left them in an embarrassing situation. My blood boiled. They said that Sarah was in the kitchen telling a bunch of people that you all went to dinner together, and when it came time to split the bill, you made a drama because you didn't want to pay. According to her, you always accept invitations, but then make trouble when it's time to pay. I was shaking with rage. They had completely distorted the story. In their version, I was the freeloader, the one who caused problems over money. Carla, can I tell you what really happened? She nodded, and I told her everything. How they always ordered the most expensive things knowing my financial situation. How I always ended up paying for others. How on Friday I finally established a limit by refusing to pay $54.50 for $3 water. Wow, said Carla when I finished. That changes everything. They really made it seem like you were the problematic one in the story, and now everyone in the office must be thinking I'm stingy and difficult. Carla sighed. Some colleagues did comment. But now that I know your version, I can talk to some people, clarify things discreetly. I thanked Carla, but I knew the damage was already done. Their narrative had spread first, and it was always harder to correct a distorted story than to tell the truth from the beginning. During the rest of the week, I felt the environment changing around me. Some people treated me with subtle coldness. Others avoided talking about money or plans to go out when I was around. Sarah, Jessica. And Amanda acted as if nothing had happened, but no longer included me in conversations about outings or events. That's when I received an unexpected invitation. On Thursday, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I took a while to recognize. It was from Brenda, a colleague from finance, who I rarely talk to beyond basic greetings. Hi, Emma. A group of us is going to have a happy hour on Friday at Rusty Anchor. Nothing too fancy, just to relax after the week. Want to come? I hesitated. After everything that had happened, the idea of going out with work colleagues made me anxious, but at the same time, I didn't want to isolate myself completely. Who's going to be there, I asked. Me, Marcus from IT, Anna from accounting, John from marketing, and 2 or 3 other people. Chill people. Rusty Anchor was a much simpler bar than Olive Anchor. Affordable beers, homemade snacks, casual atmosphere. Nothing like the sophisticated places that Sarah and her group frequented. Okay, I'll go. What time, new friends, new perspectives. On Friday after work, I went to Rusty Anchor with cautious expectations. The place was exactly as I imagined, small, cozy, with classic rock music playing softly and decoration that wasn't trying to impress anyone. Brenda was already there with the group. Marcus, a guy in his 30s with a scruffy beard and a very relaxed personality. Anna, a 40-year-old woman, mother of 2 children, always friendly, but whom I had never had a chance to get to know better. John, a guy my age who had recently joined the company. Emma, so good that you came, said Brenda, giving me a genuine hug. We sat at a round table and Marcus immediately asked, "What are you all going to have?" "The first round is on me, first round on someone else." What a revolutionary concept. I ordered a canned beer. Nothing sophisticated. Anna ordered a draft beer. John wanted a simple gin and tonic. Nobody was trying to impress anyone with expensive orders. The conversation flowed naturally. We talked about work, but also about movies, music, trips we'd like to take. Marcus told hilarious stories about the IT problems he solved. Anna talked about the craziness of raising 2 teenagers. John shared his adventures as a recent graduate trying to understand adult life. And for the first time in months, I felt relaxed going out with work colleagues. When it came time to order another round, John offered to pay. Then Anna insisted on paying for the third. There was no drama, no astronomical bill, no unfair division. More importantly, nobody teased me for ordering just beer. Nobody commented on my discipline or made jokes about willpower. They simply accepted me as part of the group. It was when Brenda brought up the subject I was avoiding. "Emma," she said during a pause in the conversation, "can I say something? I know it's none of my business, but I heard some comments at the office about that situation at the restaurant last week." My stomach contracted. Marcus, Anna, and John looked at me with genuine interest, not malicious. "What situation?" asked Marcus. I sighed. "I went out with some colleagues last Friday, and there was drama when it came time to split the bill." What kind of drama? Anna wanted to know. I hesitated, but something about their welcoming manner encouraged me to tell the truth. I related the whole story. The months paying for others, the teasing about my discipline, the demand to pay $54, $50 for water, my refusal, and the distorted narrative that spread afterward. When I finished, there was a moment of silence. "Man," said Marcus, "that's messed up. They really made you pay for the others for months, and on top of that, they spread that you were the problematic one," John added, indignant. Anna shook her head. "That's exploitation, and I thought it was just in my head." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I've gone out with them a few times," Anna explained. "I always thought there was something strange. They always ordered the most expensive dishes, and there was always that pressure to split everything equally. I stopped accepting invitations because it was getting heavy for my budget." "Me too," said Brenda. "I went once and spent almost $100 in one night. Never wanted to repeat that." Marcus laughed humorlessly. "They tried to invite me a couple of times, but I always made excuses. I had a strange feeling about it." John agreed. "Yeah, I noticed that there are people in the office who kind of avoid going out with them. Now I understand why. I wasn't alone. Other people had noticed the toxic pattern of Sarah, Jessica, and Amanda. Other people had distanced themselves because of it. You know what irritates me most?" said Anna. "They earn much more than most of us and still make others pay for their luxuries." "Exactly," Marcus agreed. "If they want to eat at expensive restaurants, they should pay out of their own pocket, not exploit colleagues." "You did the right thing," Emma said, Brenda firmly. "You had to establish boundaries." For the first time since Friday, I felt validated. My reaction hadn't been exaggerated. My boundary hadn't been unfair. I had done the right thing. We stayed later than planned, talking and laughing. When it came time to leave, the total bill was less than $40 for 5 people. We split it equally, $8 each, and there was still enough left for a generous tip. $8 a whole night of genuine fun for $8. The war escalates. Throughout the following week, our new friendship solidified. Marcus created a WhatsApp group called Rusty Crew, and we started planning more casual outings. A coffee after work here, a snack there, hallway conversations that naturally extended. It was incredible how different it was to have friendships without financial pressure. When we went out, everyone ordered what they wanted and could pay for. If someone was tight one month, the others understood and adjusted plans. If someone wanted to spend more, they paid their own bill without involving others. But things with Sarah, Jessica, and Amanda were far from over. On Wednesday, I received a message from Sarah on WhatsApp. "Hi, Emma. We're going to have a barbecue at my sister's house on Saturday. It'll be very casual. Everyone brings something. How about it?" I stared at the message in disbelief. After a week of total coldness after spreading lies about me, now they wanted to include me again. "Hi, Sarah. Who else is going?" I replied, curious to understand the game. "Oh, the usual group. About 15 people. We thought of you to bring the drinks. You have good taste for these things. The drinks for 15 people." At a Saturday-long barbecue, I did quick calculations in my head. At least $200 in beer, soda water, and ice. Maybe $300 if I wanted to guarantee enough variety. It was obvious what was happening. They had given me the most expensive responsibility of the event, probably after laughing among themselves about how I had saved money at dinner. But this time I knew exactly how to play their game. "Sure, I'd love to help with the drinks. I'll take care of everything," I replied with fake enthusiasm. Sarah must have been surprised by my positive reaction because she took a while to respond. "That's great. The party is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll send you the address." I spent the rest of the week planning. I researched promotions at 3 different markets. I found a clearance on sodas close to expiration. Still good for consumption, but with 70% discount. I got beer on sale in an end-of-lot promotion. I bought water in 5-liter jugs, much cheaper than individual bottles. In total, I spent $52, much less than they expected, and all known brands. Nothing that could be criticized. Saturday arrived, and I loaded my car with enough drinks for a small army. My sister's house was beautiful, a modern-style construction with a large backyard pool and complete gourmet area. "Wow, Emma, you really went all out," said Amanda when she saw me unloading the drinks. There was something in her tone that I couldn't identify. Sarah appeared wearing a summer dress that cost more than my weekly income. Such efficiency. "Look at the variety you brought." Jessica approached to help organize everything on a side table. Very well thought out, separating by type. It looks super organized. The barbecue was really good. People brought elaborate salads, gourmet sides, artisanal desserts. My contribution of drinks seemed almost basic next to so much sophistication, but it was fulfilling its role. Everyone was drinking, laughing, enjoying the sun. I talked to some people I didn't know, took photos, participated in activities. On the outside, everything seemed normal, but around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I went to get my purse that I had forgotten in the car. And when I came back through the kitchen, I heard voices coming from the laundry room. It was Sarah talking quietly with 2 other people. She really showed up after all that scene at the restaurant. And she still brought the cheapest drinks she could find. My blood froze. I stopped behind the door, heart racing. A female voice I recognized as Sarah's cousin responded, "Don't you think you're being a little hard on her?" Jessica joined the conversation. "Hard? She caused the biggest fuss last Friday. Left us in a super embarrassing situation, and today just proves that she can't keep up with our level," continued Sarah. "Look at the brand she brought. Everything as cheap as possible." Amanda entered the conversation. "It's not our fault if she can't afford it, but if she accepts to participate, she has to take on the responsibilities." Sarah's cousin seemed uncomfortable. "But you know she earns much less." So what? Jessica cut in. "Everyone has their priorities. If she prioritized participating in events instead of, I don't know what she could manage." "Exactly," agreed Sarah. "It's a matter of choice. We choose to invest in our social life. She chooses to make drama choice. As if I chose to earn less, as if I chose to struggle." "The funny thing is that she still came after all the scandals she made," continued Amanda. "Some people really have no sense." I went back to the backyard with my mind boiling. They were all there laughing, drinking my drinks, pretending normally. Sarah waved when she saw me. "Hey, Emma, I was missing you. Come here. We were talking about next week's projects." I forced a smile and joined the group. Throughout the afternoon, I observed every interaction with new eyes. Every seemingly innocent comment now had a second layer of meaning. "The drinks are great, Emma," said Jessica, raising a beer can. "You always make good choices." Was it a compliment or veiled sarcasm about my promotion research? When the barbecue was ending, I helped collect things, trying to keep up appearances until I could leave. "Thanks for all the help." "Emma," said Amanda when I was saying goodbye. "You're a sweetheart." In the car driving home, I replayed the conversation I heard dozens of times in my head. Every word, every tone, every justification they made. They genuinely believed they were right, that I was the problem, that I made bad choices and then created drama. To them, I was the clueless person who didn't know my place. The perfect opportunity Monday arrived, and I went to work with completely different energy. No longer the anxiety of wanting to please or the insecurity of being judged. I knew exactly where I stood now. During breakfast, Jessica approached my desk with that fake smile I now recognized perfectly. "Hey, Emma, the barbecue on Saturday was really nice, right?" Amanda was commenting on how helpful you were with everything. "It was great. Just thanks for including me," I replied naturally. "We were thinking about organizing a surprise birthday party for Sarah in 2 weeks. Would you be up for helping with the organization?" There it was. The next test, the next game. Sure, it would be an honor. "What did you have in mind?" Jessica smiled with that expression I now knew was predatory. "We were thinking about Azure, that new sophisticated restaurant downtown. Reservation for 12 people. You could be responsible for the decoration and cake." Azure. I knew it by name. A high-end restaurant where dishes cost between $80 and $120. And they wanted me to fund decoration and cake for 12 people. Easily $300 or more. How awesome! "When is it again?" I asked, maintaining enthusiasm. "Saturday in 2 weeks. I know it's tight, but we trust your good taste." Good taste. As if my financial situation were a matter of choice and not reality. "Let me organize my schedule and confirm with you today." Okay. As soon as Jessica walked away, I started planning. Not what they expected. Me spending money I didn't have to impress them, but my own strategy. Actually, I had been organizing small events as a hobby for some years. Birthday parties for family friends. Simple celebrations. I had some supplier contacts and knew how to make things look beautiful without spending much. I spent 2 weeks planning meticulously. I got decorations rented for a fair price. Negotiated a beautiful but economical cake with a small bakery I knew. Total $240. Expensive for me, but doable if I put it on the credit card. And more importantly, I had a plan they would never expect. Jessica. I called when I saw her in the hallway. I confirmed. "I can take care of the decoration and cake." She seemed genuinely surprised. "Really? That's incredible. Sarah is going to be emotional. I have some ideas that will make everything beautiful," I replied. And I really did. During the 2 weeks, I pretended to be super excited. I sent messages in the group asking about Sarah's preferences, talking about the surprises I was preparing, showing myself completely involved. Sarah was radiant. "Girls, I can't even sleep from anxiety. It's going to be the most special birthday of my life." Amanda agreed. "For sure. Our organizer is killing it." Our organizer. As if I were their employee. On Friday, I finalized all preparations. The decoration was really beautiful. Gold and pink tones, elegant centerpieces, metallic balloons. The cake was a work of art. 2 tiers chocolate frosting, sugar flowers. Saturday morning, I arrived at Azure 2 hours early to set everything up. The restaurant was even more impressive inside than in the photos. Crystal chandeliers, noble wood furniture, panoramic city view. The manager helped me organize the reserve table. "It looks spectacular," he said when we finished. "Your friend is going to be emotional." The guests started arriving at 7. Sarah entered radiant, wearing a dress that cost more than 3 weeks of my income. "My God, it's perfect!" she exclaimed with tears in her eyes, hugging me tight. Everyone complimented the decoration. The photos were magazine-worthy. The cake was an absolute success. I had exceeded all expectations. When the waiter brought the menus, Sarah announced generously, "Girls, today is a party. Order whatever you want." She didn't say who would pay, but from the way she spoke, it seemed like it would be her. "I only ordered a Caesar salad as an appetizer and sparkling water. I'm still on that diet," I explained when Sarah asked why I wasn't ordering more. "But don't worry, I'm super happy celebrating with you." Throughout the entire dinner, I was the life of the party. I made emotional toasts, started animated conversations, took hundreds of photos of the birthday girl. I was radiant, participative, being the best friend they could want. The cake arrived with lit candles. Sarah blew them out emotionally. Everyone sang happy birthday and applauded. It was a perfect moment, exactly as she had dreamed. Then the bill came. $1,500 for 12 people. Sarah grabbed the check, and to my surprise, her expression completely changed. She had clearly forgotten how much a party at Azure would cost. "Let's split it among everyone," she announced, trying to maintain composure. "That's $125 each." That's when I played my decisive card. "Girls," I said, getting up from the chair. "It was a magical night, but I need to leave now. I have an early commitment tomorrow." I grabbed my purse and started saying goodbye. "Sarah, happy birthday. I hope it was everything you dreamed of." Sarah seemed confused. "But what about the bill?" "Oh, I only had salad and water." I left $20 on the table. Covers my part with a generous tip. My real contribution was already the decoration and cake I organized and paid for. Thank you for letting me be part of this. And I left the restaurant with a radiant smile, leaving behind a sepulchral silence. I knew exactly what was happening in there. They had planned to make me pay more than $100 for a dinner I barely touched, after I had already spent $240 organizing the entire party, but this time I was smarter. The war intensifies in the car. My phone exploded. Sarah, Jessica, Amanda all calling at the same time. I let them all go to voicemail. The messages started polite. Emma, where did you go? Come back here. Then became desperate. You can't leave like that. We have to split the bill. And finally became aggressive. How rude. You organized the party. You have an obligation to stay until the end. I only replied to one message. Girls, I organized and paid for all the decoration and cake. My contribution was already more than enough. I hope you enjoyed the party. Jessica's response came immediately. This isn't fair. You knew how it worked. I did know, I replied. That's why I made clear from the beginning what my part would be. Sarah's response surprised me with its fury. You humiliated us in front of everyone. What kind of friend does that? The kind who doesn't accept being exploited anymore, I replied. Amanda tried a more conciliatory tone, Emma. We always split everything. That's how it works among friends. No, I replied. That's how you exploited those who earn less. Now it's over. The messages stopped for a few hours. Then Sarah sent one last one. You're going to regret this. Monday at the office was a declaration of war. They arrived visibly furious. During coffee, I heard Jessica telling other colleagues it was a public humiliation. On Saturday, we organized a birthday party, and when it came time to pay, one person simply abandoned the group and left everyone paying for her. This time, they didn't just distort the story, they completely inverted it. Wow, how horrible, said Marina. What kind of person does that? Exactly, agreed Jessica. We trusted her to organize. She agreed to participate, and at the H hour, simply fled from responsibility. I was passing with my coffee when I heard this. I stopped and turned to the group. Wow, what a terrible story, I said, approaching. What party are you talking about? Jessica was visibly uncomfortable, but maintained the lie. A party we organized on Saturday. One person committed and then left us hanging. Interesting, I replied calmly. I also organized a party on Saturday. I spent $240 of my own money on decoration and cake, set everything up alone, made the event beautiful, and then paid my individual bill $20 for salad and water. What a coincidence. The silence was embarrassing. Marina and the other colleagues looked from Jessica to me, clearly confused. Imagine if after organizing and paying for all that, they still wanted me to pay another $125 for a salad. I continued laughing as if the absurdity were obvious. It would be like I was obligated to pay for others' food just because I organized the event. How crazy, right? Marina nodded. Wow, that would be unfair. If you already organized everything, Jessica tried to defend herself. But when you participate in a group, there's an implicit agreement. Implicit agreement, I repeated. Like if I organize a party and pay for decoration, I'm obligated to pay for others' food too. What kind of agreement is that? The other colleagues seemed increasingly on my side. Jessica realized she was losing and walked away, irritated. But that was just the beginning. Throughout that week, Sarah, Jessica, and Amanda intensified the campaign against me. They spread increasingly distorted versions of the story. According to them, I was a freeloader, irresponsible, someone who accepted responsibilities and then ran from them. Emma has always been weird about money. I heard Amanda commenting in the break room. She accepts invitations but then makes a fuss when it's time to pay. It's a behavioral pattern, agreed Sarah. We tried to include her out of pity, but it got to a point where it wasn't possible anymore. Out of pity, as if they were charitable, including me in their groups. Some people in the office started treating me coldly. Others avoided talking about money when I was around. The environment became heavy. But I wasn't alone. Marcus, Brenda, Anna, and John, my new group of friends, were indignant when they learned about the new version of the story. They're spreading that you organized a party and then refused to pay, asked Marcus, incredulous. When you had already paid for the organization, it's impressively dishonest, said Brenda, distorting facts like that. Anna shook her head. They really think they can rewrite reality. It was John who suggested, you know what you should do? Show the receipts for decoration and cake, then everyone sees how much you spent. It was a good idea. I had kept all the receipts. On Thursday, when I heard Sarah telling a particularly distorted version of the story in the break room, where I was a freeloader who organized a cheap party and then refused to pay the bill, I decided to act. Sarah, I said, approaching with a folder in hand. Are you talking about your birthday party? She tensed. I was explaining to Carla how some people have no responsibility. Good thing you brought that up, I said, opening the folder. I brought the receipts to show everyone how much it costs to organize. I spread the receipts on the break room table. Rented decoration 85, personalized cake 120, flowers and candles 35. Total $240. Wow, said Carla looking at the receipts. You spent all that? Of course, I replied. It was Sarah's birthday. I wanted it to be special. Sarah was visibly uncomfortable. Emma, that's not the point. How is it not? I asked innocently. You were explaining about responsibility. I thought it was important to show that I took my responsibility organized and paid for all this. And then I still paid my own bill at the restaurant. Carla calculated quickly. So you spent $240 on the party and still paid for your food. Exactly. $20 for salad and water. Total of $260, concluded Carla. And even so, they wanted you to pay another $125. Sarah tried to explain herself. It's that when you participate in a group, but she had already participated, Carla cut in with $260 more than double what any other person spent. The math was simple and irrefutable. Sarah left the break room unable to defend herself. The truth comes to light. The story of the receipts spread quickly through the office. People began to understand that I wasn't the freeloader in the story. It was the opposite. Wow. Emma spent more than $250, and they still wanted her to pay more. I heard someone commenting, "That's a lot of nerve," another person replied. Their narrative began to crumble, but they didn't give up. On Friday, Jessica tried a different approach. She came to talk to me at the end of work. Emma, I think there was a misunderstanding about this whole situation. What misunderstanding? I asked. The issue isn't money, she said. It's about loyalty to the group, about not abandoning friends in a difficult situation. Difficult situation. When you left the restaurant, we were left in an embarrassing situation. We had to explain to the waiter, reorganize the bill. Jessica, I said calmly. I organized the entire party, spent $240 out of my pocket, and still paid my own bill. How is that abandonment? But you left before the end, she insisted. That's not done. It was incredible. She genuinely believed I had an obligation to stay and pay for others' food. What if I had stayed and refused to pay the $125 I asked? That would be different. At least you would have stayed to talk, to have you pressure me until I gave in. Jessica hesitated. To resolve things civilly. Civilly, like you're doing now, spreading lies about me. They're not lies, she defended herself. It's our perspective of the facts. Perspective. That's how they justified the distortions. Jessica, can I ask you something? Do you really think it was fair for me to pay $125 after already spending $240? She thought for a moment. When you accept to participate in an event, you accept the responsibilities that come with it. Even spending more than any other person, it's a matter of principle, she said, as if that explained everything. Principle for them, the principle was that I should pay for others regardless of how much I had already contributed. I understand, I said. Thank you for clarifying. Jessica seemed hopeful. So can we resolve this? Resolve what? Go back to being friends. Forget all this confusion. There's nothing to resolve, Jessica. You made clear you think it's normal to exploit me financially. I made clear I don't accept that anymore. It's not exploitation, she protested. It's how groups of friends work. No, I replied. It's how you think they should work. She sighed, frustrated. You're being very difficult. I'm being fair to myself. Jessica walked away, clearly irritated. Later, I heard her commenting to Amanda. Emma is impossible. She doesn't even want to talk about resolving things. For them, resolving meant me going back to accepting being exploited. The unexpected success. But while they continued trying to bring me down, something interesting was happening. Several people in the office had seen the photos of Sarah's birthday party on Instagram. The decoration had really been impressive. Emma said, Marina approaching me on Monday. I saw the photos of the party you organized. It was beautiful. Thank you. Do you do this professionally? No. It was just a favor for a colleague because I was looking for someone to organize my sister's wedding. Would you be interested? My heart raced. A wedding, that would be a real opportunity. Sure, I'd love to talk about it. Marina gave me her sister's contact and we scheduled a meeting for the end of the week. During the week, 2 more people approached me. The director's secretary wanted someone to organize a corporate party. A colleague from finance was planning a quinceañera for her daughter. I was discovering I had real talent for this. And more importantly, I was discovering a way to earn extra money doing something I enjoyed. On Thursday, Carla from HR called me for a conversation. Emma, we're organizing the company's year-end party. Would you help us? It would be official freelance work. Of course, paid. My heart raced even more. An official opportunity recognizing my talent. Sure, I'd love to. Everyone was impressed with that birthday party. Even Sarah herself couldn't stop praising your work to management. Interesting. The Sarah who was furious with me was praising my work to the company. It's for 200 people, so it's a big project. We'll schedule a meeting to discuss details. 200 people, a project that could yield significant money and open doors to other jobs. Leaving the meeting, I passed by Sarah's desk. She looked up from this computer, and for the first time in weeks, there was no hostility in her gaze. There was something I couldn't identify. "Hi," she said quietly. "I heard you're going to organize the company party." "Yeah, looks like it. It's quite an opportunity," she said, and there was a note of respect in her voice. "I'm excited," I replied. She hesitated, as if she wanted to say something more, but just nodded and went back to work. The turnaround. The year-end party was an absolute success. I received compliments from all levels of the company and $2,000 for the work. More importantly, I got 8 contacts from other companies interested in my services. Sarah, Jessica, and Amanda were at the party trying to act normally, but the dynamic had changed forever. I was no longer the needy one they could exploit. During the party, several people approached me praising my work. "You have natural talent. Have you thought about starting your own company? Give me your contact." Around 10 o'clock, Amanda approached. "Congratulations on the party. It's incredible." "Thank you, Amanda." We were thinking. She hesitated. "How about we talk, just the 4 of us, to clarify things? What kind of clarification resolve our problems? Go back to being friends." I stared at her for a moment. "Amanda, do you really think I should have paid $125 that night? After already spending $240, she became uncomfortable. "It's complicated." "No," I said, "it's simple. Do you think yes or no?" When you go out in a group, there's an understanding. Answer yes or no, I insisted. Amanda sighed. "We always split everything." "That doesn't answer my question." She looked around as if seeking support and finally said, Maybe it was a little unfair." "A little. Okay, it was unfair," she admitted reluctantly. "But you also overreacted." "How did I overreact, leaving like that, causing embarrassment?" "It was incredible. Even admitting they had been unfair, they still thought I had overreacted." "Amanda, you exploited me for months. When I finally established a boundary, you spread lies about me, and you think I overreacted." "They weren't lies," she defended. "It was our interpretation." "Interpretation?" "You said I refused to pay after organizing a cheap party. I spent $240. Where's the interpretation there?" Amanda looked down. "Maybe we expressed ourselves poorly." "You didn't express yourselves poorly. You deliberately lied." "Emma, please. We can get over this." "Why should I want to get over it? Because we were friends." "No," I said calmly. "You were predators and I was the prey. Now that I found my place, you want to go back to the old dynamic." "It's not that. It's exactly that. Amanda, you're only approaching because you saw I don't need you anymore. Actually, I'm doing better without you." And it was true. My life had improved in every aspect since I distanced myself from them. Amanda tried once more. "We can change." "No," I replied. "You can change, but that doesn't interest me anymore. I found people who truly respect me." She walked away, visibly frustrated. The new beginning. 6 months later, I was in my own office. Luna events, inspired by Luna Cafe, where I sometimes met with my real friends to plan. My colleague Yu's sister's wedding was an absolute success. The photos circulated on social media, generating a flood of clients. I had found my calling. Sarah, Jessica, and Amanda continued at the company. Our paths occasionally crossed in the hallways. The relationship was cordial but distant. They greeted me politely, sometimes even complimented my work. But there was always an underlying tension. They never fully admitted they were wrong. In their view, there were misunderstandings and overreactions on both sides. They continued believing their way of splitting bills was normal and fair. A year later, I received a message from Amanda on LinkedIn. "I saw your company is growing a lot. Congratulations. You always had talent for these things." I replied politely, "Thank you, Amanda. I hope you're doing well too." But I didn't feel like resuming contact. Some bridges once burned don't need to be rebuilt. During a meeting with a new client, she commented, "You seem very confident for someone so young." I smiled, remembering how it all started. I learned that establishing boundaries is the foundation of any healthy relationship, personal or professional. "And how did you learn that?" "Through a restaurant bill I refused to pay unfairly." She laughed, thinking I was joking. But it was true. That night at Olive and Anchor had completely changed my life. Today, when I go out with my real friends, people who respect me regardless of my budget, we sometimes tell this story and laugh. Marcus always says, "You turned their meanness into your financial independence." And he's right. They thought they were humiliating me, putting me in my place. Actually, they forced me to discover my true worth. It seems ironic, but it was the best favor anyone ever did me, even if it wasn't intentional. Establishing boundaries, even when uncomfortable, is essential to maintain self-esteem and find genuine relationships. And sometimes the people who try to diminish us end up being the catalyst for our greatest transformation. Today, I know my worth isn't measured by what I can pay, but by what I no longer accept tolerating. And that's priceless.